Hi everybody. Thank you so much for 500 subscribers. I could not keep doing this without you, and I appreciate every single one of you. To celebrate this momentous occasion, we're going to make a lamb vindaloo with a quick flatbread. To start this dish, we need to break down 1.5 pounds of lamb. Of course, you can buy this already pre-cubed. I just find it more cost effective to buy it in larger portions and break it down myself. We're just trimming off any excess fat and cutting this into 1.5 to 2 inch pieces and popping this into a bowl. We're also going to need 15 dried Kashmiri chilies. They're really beautiful and they have quite a kick to them. We're going to need some curry leaves for this dish as well. But we're going to pop those 15 Kashmiri chilies into a blender and add 1/4 cup of warm water and let that steep. We're also going to add in a 1 inch piece of ginger, just giving that a rough chop, as well as 8 cloves of garlic. We're just going to smash these, pull off that garlic skin, and pop those into the blender as well. Now over on the stove in a dry pan, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of coriander seeds, a 1 inch piece of ginger, 8 cloves, 3 green cardamom pods, and 10 black peppercorns. We're going to let this roast until you start to really smell those spices. And then we're going to add them into our blender along with a 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric, 3 tablespoons of tamarind paste, and 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. We're going to blend this up until we get a nice, beautiful paste, and your kitchen is going to start smelling wonderful. And look at this beautiful color. It should look a little something like this. Now before we add our paste, we are going to season our lamb with 2 teaspoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. We're going to get in there with our gloved hands and rub all of that around, making sure all of our lamb is coated. Before adding in our marinade, scraping all of that goodness from our blender in there. And we're going to toss this around, making sure all of our lamb is coated. Now we want to pop a lid on this and let this marinate overnight, but if you want to cook it the same day, give yourself at least 4 hours. Now it's the next day. We're going to need 1.5 yellow onion. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Just chopping this into a nice even-ish dice. Popping this into a bowl, and we can move over to the stove at this point. Now over medium-high heat in a large Dutch oven or heavy bottom bowl, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Now we are going to cook our onions to a point that may not be comfortable for you. We want some brown bits on this. It's going to add a sweetness as well as a depth of flavor, and this should take anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. And once we get some nice browning, we're going to move these around and create a little space. And at this point, we're going to add in our lamb. You should have brought this out at the beginning of the day and brought it to room temperature because you don't want to add cold protein to a hot pan. So just scraping all of this in there. And we're going to let this cook for about 10 minutes. We just want to start the cooking process. We are doing a long braise on this, but we're just going to add a little flavor with a little brown bits. We're going to create a fond on the bottom of the pot. Now after 10 minutes, we can add in 2 cups of water, and you want to go in there and start scraping anything that may have stuck to the bottom of your pan, because that is just a ton of flavor and you want to incorporate it into your braise. We are going to season with 5 curry leaves and a teaspoon of kosher salt. Give that one more little stir. We're going to cover this with the lid, leaving a little space so condensation can evaporate, and we're let this cook over medium-low heat for an hour. After an hour, we're going to take off the lid, and at this point we can taste for seasoning. Because the lamb is pretty much cooked, you're not going to have to worry about any raw things. So we're going to add another teaspoon of kosher salt, along with another tablespoon of tamarind paste and apple cider vinegar. The vinegar is going to just bring out the flavor in this vindaloo, and it's just going to heighten everything. Give that a little stir, pop the lid back on, and let this go for another half an hour. Meanwhile, we are going to sift 1 cup plus 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt into a bowl. Next, we are going to add in 5 ounces of Greek yogurt. This is probably the fastest, easiest flatbread you can make. We're going to mix this around with our spatula. And then, as I always say, your clean hands are your best kitchen tools. Get in there and start rubbing the flour into the yogurt. Cover this up, let that rest for half an hour. After half an hour, we're going to give this a nice thorough knead. Then we're going to section this into 4 pieces. And we're going to roll each of these sections as flat as possible. Pardon my workbench rolling everywhere. This is on wheels, and I have a very uneven Brooklyn wood floor in my apartment. Now over high heat in a cast iron, we're going to brush with a light coating of oil. We are going to slap on one of these flatbreads. We're going to let this cook for about a minute and a half. Give this a little flip. Brush with a little melted butter. After 30 seconds, we're going to flip again, and we're going to start patting the top. This is going to encourage this to puff up a little bit. After 30 more seconds, take that off, rinse and repeat. Now I have a little basmati rice in one of my favorite bowls, and to plate, we are going to layer on our gorgeous vindaloo. Be sure to get a lot of that sauce in there because that rice is going to soak it up. We're going to garnish with a little cilantro, and this is looking absolutely stunning. Now we can finally give this a taste. We're going to start with a little flatbread. This is very tender, still very hot too. Spoon on a little bit of our lamb. Beautiful. And now we can taste this. This lamb is so tender. It's super spicy. You get all the aromatics, all the spices. The flatbread is the perfect utensil to pick this up with. The basmati rice adds a little cooling factor to it. But this is warming, aromatic, and absolutely delicious. But there it is. Lamb vindaloo with a quick and easy flatbread. I really do hope you all try to make this in your home. Thank you so much again for 500 subscribers, and thank you for spending some time with me today. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you loved it, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell because I put out new videos every Thursday. Thank you again so much, and until next time, happy cooking.